So we've got our enemy basically following our player like a puppy dog. However, it doesn't do anything. It just basically pushes them around. So what we need to do is actually have it damage the player. So in order to do that, our player is going to need a script to hold health. So let's do that first. Let's go ahead and create a new script. Create C# script, and we'll just call this player stats script. Okay. We will open that up. Great. Let's open up the player stats script. And this will be a relatively easy script to lay right. Well, thank you. Let's make this big. All right, so let's just get rid of this business here. Actually, get rid of all of this. So we need a variable that's just going to hold our health, and we're just going to make it public so that we can see it, make it easier to work with. So we're going to do public float, and we'll just call it player health. And let's just give it an initial value of 100F. Okay, so real simple. It's just going to have health. Let's get rid of this comment. Okay, I don't need this every time that pops up. All right. And then we're just going to put a function in here that can be called to either add health or remove health. And so what we're going to do is we're going to eventually have the enemy call this function we're going to make to remove health from our player. Okay. So in order for it to have access, we need to make it public. So it's going to be public void, and then we need to give it a name. So I'm just going to take out the, since this is already here, we'll just use this. So we'll call it player health adjustment. And then we're going to do a float player health adjustment. Okay. There is a difference between the two because notice this is lowercase, so we're just going to make this that basically it when you call this function, you have to send it a number, and basically it's going to be the number that you want to either add or remove from the total health. And all we're going to do is we're going to do player health. It's going to be plus equals whatever this player health adjustment is. So just take this, Control C and Control V and semicolon. All right, so we have the initial health, which is going to be 100. If you call this function, this player health adjustment function, you have to send it a float, a number. It's going to be saved in here as player health adjustment. And all we're going to do is take what the current health is and just add whatever number is sent to it. So if we want to remove health, we have to send a negative number. If we want to add health, we have to just send a whole positive number. And that's it. That's pretty easy. And that's all it's going to be in the script for now. Later on, we can add more to it if we want, but we're just trying to get the basic mechanic going. Eventually, we need to add something that if your health is not, if it's 0 or less, end game or something, but we're not going to do that yet. So we'll just go ahead and minimize that. And that's not going to do anything initially. We do need to put it on the actual player here, though, so that it can be accessed. So give that a second to go. Waste so much time just waiting for stuff. Okay, so I'm going to take this player stat script, and we're just going to go ahead and put that on our first-person controller since that's our game. I'm just going to click on it, make sure that it did indeed go on there, and let's see. I don't see it. Let's try that again. Player stat script. There it goes. Okay, and you can see our total health there. Good. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our enemy controller, and we're just going to make it so that we can damage our person. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that enemy controller script, and we're going to add a couple of things here in order for it to work. Okay, so this first section is just for navigation purposes. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to make what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a raycast out of my enemy to detect if there's an enemy in front of it, or to detect if the player is in front of it. And then if it is, then we'll tell it to take the health away. Okay, so we're going to use a layer mask, much like we did before with the 2D jumping, where we would detect whether the ground layer mask was present. So we're just going to go ahead and do private layer mask, and we'll just call it player mask. And we need to do a bit shift here. There we go. So we're going to put it on layer 9. And then we're going to make a variable public bool player present. Basically, we're just going to, and let's just set that to false initially. We're just going to set this up so that basically we're just going to, when we detect it, we're just going to say there's a player in front of us or the player's not in front of us. And that's how we're going to determine whether we're killing them or not. Okay, so this will be the mask that we use when we do the raycast, and then this will be the variable that the raycast will make true or false. Will be either that the player is there or the player is not there. Okay. Besides these two things, the other things we're going to need is our attacking element. So we'll do public float enemy attack mount. Okay. And then we'll do public float enemy attack rate. So this amounts obviously how much health it will remove from the player with each hit. This is how often it will hit. Oops. And then we're going to need one more here, which is just actually for later. Public float enemy next attack time. And we'll just set that initially equal to 0.1f. Basically, the next attack time, we're going to do is that every time we hit, we're going to add to this, and then it will say don't attack until you can attack the next attack time. This is for the actual code when we start writing it out. These are the only two things we need to have access to. That's why this one's private. All right, so that looks acceptable. Okay, so what we're going to do is first we need to determine whether we are detecting the player or not. So since raycast is a physics-based thing, let's go ahead and get rid of this comment. It bothers me. Okay. We're going to do a void fixed update. Okay. So this will run on every physics frame, and then in here what we're going to do is just detect the player. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this. We're going to do that player present. Okay. We're going to set that equal to detect player. Basically, we're going to affect a function called detect player, and its result is going to go into whether the player is present or not. So this is basically going to be a function that we're going to raycast with. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a bool detect player, like, oops, not like that, like that. Okay, so if you remember, these are all voids because they don't return anything. Okay, so just as like when we have a function and it's going to, so like this one here, where if we give it information, if we call this function, we give it a number, it goes in here. The void means that it doesn't send anything back after this gets run. In our case, this one, is it this one? Okay. In our case, this one's going to send back a bool, because if you look at here, where are you? Player present, right? That's a bool. We're setting it equal to whatever this thing's value is. So it has to return a bool. So that's why there's a bool in front of it, not void. Void means it returns nothing. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Hopefully that makes some sense. Okay. So what we're going to do is go ahead and we're going to set up a vector just to say that it's forward. So we're going to do a vector 3, not 3. Everything's going to basically be vector 3s now, FWD. And then we'll set it equal to transform. Everything's going to be a vector 3 and not vector 2 like it was before, because we are not doing transform direction. And we want to do a vector 3 dot forward. Basically, it's just going to store that we want to shoot forward. We're going to use this to tell the direction of the raycast when we do go ahead and cast it. Okay. All right. So that looks fine, and now we'll actually run it. So we're going to say if, we're going to do our raycast, physics.raycast, and then it's going to need some information. So it's going to need first where it's shooting from, and we're just going to say transform.position position. So basically shoot from the current position. That's where it's going to start shooting from. Then it's going to need the direction that it should shoot, which is going to be FWD, which is what we found right here. That's why we made this little variable here. So shoot forward. Then it's going to need the amount, how far to shoot. And we're only going to shoot 1 unit. This number might need to be adjusted depending on how well it's sensing in front of it. It might need to be larger, it might need to be small. But we're just going to start off with 1 unit forward. And then the last thing we want to do is use our mask. So we only want to detect things that are in the player mask. So I'm going to say player mask. Okay? And then if that is true, so if this results in a true statement, we're going to go ahead and return true, right? Else return false. Okay, so remember, it has to return something. So there's always going to be these returns here. So it needs to return something. So if there's no return when you have something on the before this, like if this was a float or something else, it won't run. Okay, so basically we're just going to test if we hit something, it'll return true. So this player present will become true or false based off of this raycast here. So I'm going to save that, and then we're going to go back to Unity. And we got to remember, it was layer mask 9. We need to add that to our first person player. Okay, so detect player does not exist in its current context. Okay, so there was an issue with it. So detect player. Detect. That's not right. Let's try that again. Go back here. All right, come on. You can do it. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go to player here, and I'm going to go all the way up, and you can see there's no layer attached to it, and there's none for players. So we're going to add one in there. We're going to add a layer. We're going to add it to 9, and we're just going to call it player. Okay. I'm going to go back to the first person controller because it doesn't actually put it on there. And let's go ahead and do player, and yeah, go ahead and add it to its children. That's fine. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to enemy. I'm going to scroll down, and you can see where it says player present. We're going to see if this turns on when he gets up next to me. All right, so we'll hit play. And we're going to see if he does indeed. So let's see. It says, boom, turned on. See, I don't know if you noticed it, but let's go over here. See, it's off, and then it's on, off, on, off, on. Great. Okay, so that's working pretty good. So now that we know that that's working, we can actually start using that a little bit. One thing I'm also going to do, just to make this work a little bit better, you see how it says right here that it just keeps running into us regardless, like it keeps pushing us. Normally that's not what they would do in a video game. So what we're going to do is where we set the destination, it's constantly telling it to keep moving. It's constantly trying to be where we are, which means it has to push us to be where we are, which then we are moved, so then it has to push us more. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to set up an if, and we're going to say not player present, then go ahead and do this, okay? So basically, if we put this exclamation point, it means this is not true. So basically, if the player isn't present, meaning we're not in front of it, then go ahead and try to move towards it. But if we are directly in front of it, it's not going to bother trying to move it. And that will keep it from pushing us. It will push us initially, like bump us a little bit. We could just extend this detection and things like that, but this will keep it from pushing us like into the sea, if you will. All right. So that all works pretty well. So now what we want to do is actually do our damaging. And this is pretty simple. So what we're going to do is go down here. We're going to add another function, and we're just going to call it void attack player. I don't know why I put, okay, boom, like that. So void attack player, and then we're going to say if player is present, right? So player present, and so basically, obviously, you have to be in front of the player. So basically, if the player's in front of us, in front of the enemy, and we're going to set up a thing that we're going to have it's going to shoot over a certain amount of time. So we're going to do time is greater than the enemy next attack time. Okay. Then we're going to do enemy next attack time is going to be equal to time minus equal to time plus the enemy attack rate. Okay. So what this is going to do, just so you get the idea, is that first we have to be in front of it, and the current time that we're at is greater than my enemy next attack time. Okay. So initially this is going to be 0, so the time will be greater than that. And then what we're going to do, as soon as that goes through, it's going to say, okay, that's true. It's going to say enemy next attack time. So we're going to set up what the next time that we can attack is, okay, is going to be whatever the time it currently is right now, plus the enemy attack rate. So if the current time, let's say, is 1 minute, 15 seconds, it's going to add 1 minute, 15 seconds, plus let's say we do an enemy attack rate of 5 seconds. So it'll be 1 minute and 20 seconds will be the total of this. And so even if the player's present, if the time is not 1 minute, 20 seconds, this won't be true. So it has to wait until we're at 1 minute, 20 seconds. Once this current time is 1 minute, 20 seconds, it's going to go down here. And then it's going to say, okay, current time is 1 minute, 20 seconds, add 5 seconds. So the next time this can run will have to be 1 minute, 25 seconds. So that's the idea here, all right? Now what we're going to do is go ahead and basically attack the player. So down in here, we're just going to do the player object, which if you remember, we got the player object right here. That's the first thing we did on Awake. So player object, and then it's going to be .get component, and we're going to want to get the player stats script. Okay, player stat script, and then in that player stat script we want to run the player health adjustment function, and we need to send it a number. So let's just do -10. So basically we're going to say take away that -10. So if you remember, on our player stat script, which we attached to our player, we have this player health adjustment function. We made it public. You have to send it a number. So we're going to send it a -10. And it's going to take whatever the current health and then add -10. All right. So that's what that's doing. So good. Control S and let open up Unity. Hopefully everything functions correctly. Select the enemy here, and we need to do enemy attack amount. Oh, whoops. I did that wrong. Hang on a second. This should not be -10. Let's go back here. This should be enemy attack amount. That way we can choose what we want. So, enemy attack amount. Sorry. Save that. Go back in here. That way it'll take the number that we put in here. That way we can change it to be something higher or lower instead of hard coding it, such as we had. Okay, so we'll say 10 for, let's go back here. We'll say 10 for the attack amount, and then the attack rate, we'll say, let's do 2.5 seconds. Okay, so 2.5 seconds. Then what we need to do is on the first person controller, I just want to have it selected so that if I go down here, I can see my player health, and I just want to see if this is working. We'll hit play, and you should see, as this guy's on us, that it should take 10 points every 2.5 seconds once he's on us. And you can see that it is not working. Let's see. Oops. Let me go over here and see what's happening. Let's see. Enemy present. Okay. And let's see. First person controller. And it's not taking any health away. Okay. So let's see why that is. All right, so I'm kind of an idiot. The reason why that's not working is because we made this function, but it's never told to run. So we got to go on our fixed update here and just go ahead and just do attack player. So that basically, that this runs every fixed update. Then save that, and then it should work. And just keep an eye on that. And we'll hit play. And we should see this go down every 2.5 seconds. See? Okay, so if you look, it's actually adding every 2.5 seconds, it's adding 10, which is actually not what we want. So the reason why is because I need to make it sure that it's a negative number. So let's get rid of this. I did a debug earlier. Okay, save that. And go back here. So if you look, it just says enemy attack. Well, if that's a positive number, it's just going to add. So just in front of enemy attack, put a minus. Okay. And then save that, and then that will definitely work. So that will be good. We'll call that good on this video, and then in the next one we will start working on maybe a shooting mechanic.